Hi, welcome to How to Make Dinner. I'm Paula. Today we're going to make scones. You heard me. I said scones, not scones. That's a personal preference. Call them whatever you want. First things first, I always like to be drinking whiskey anytime I'm making scones, or tea, but today it's going to be whiskey. So to make these guys, you need a few things. I like to bake with a scale. You might have read the article that I wrote where I ranted and raved about the joys of a scale. This one was 20 bucks from Costco, and it makes everything 10 million times easier and more enjoyable. So I start with a scale. I have a bowl. I have a sieve. I have butter, milk, cream, or buttermilk, flour, baking powder, a little bit of sugar, an egg, and then something to go in there. It can be sweet things like raisins or blueberries. In this case, we're using cheese and some herbs and maybe a bit of onion. I haven't quite decided yet. You also need a cutter and a baking sheet, and the oven needs to be at 404. I have it at 405 because I feel like this oven's a bit on the cool side. So we're doing that. So everything's preheating. We're good to go. And this should come together in like not very much time at all. So bowl on the scale, sieve on the bowl. This is one of the best things about using a scale is it makes sifting things no big deal because it's just all one step. I hit 0 on the scale, so we're at 0. So we're going to start with flour. We need 390 grams. I know that's like stupidly precise, but why not? Seeing as you're weighing anyway, you might as well get precise. I used to make these every day at a farm shop in Scotland, and it was just, they turned out exactly the same every single time, and it's because we were weighing the ingredients. 390. Pretty close, there we go. Now I don't have to get any measuring cups dirty. I don't have to get any measuring spoons dirty either. I am going to use a measuring spoon for the baking powder, but I don't need to. So I'm going to hit 0 again. So we're back to 0 on the scale. It's about 30 grams of baking powder, which I know is a lot, but these guys have a lot of lift, which works out to 2 tablespoons. So you can weigh it, you can measure it with tablespoons, whatever you want. So that's perfect. And then I use a little bit of sugar with sweet scones or with savory scones. If these were sweet, I would put 100 grams of sugar, but because they're savory, I only put about 30 grams. So I'm gonna go up to 60 here because I already had the 30 grams of baking powder in. This is totally optional. I like a little bit of sweetness even when it's savory. I feel like it makes the texture of the scones a bit better as well. And then, oh yeah, salt. I forgot to mention salt. Take a sip of whiskey. If I was making these in the morning, I would maybe have tea, but it's nighttime, so put a decent pinch of salt in, like a 4-finger pinch, and then we just sift that together. So now I haven't gotten any measuring cups dirty. I know this, I'm like a total broken record on this subject, but I'm really, really adamant on the weighing over measuring thing. Okay, so hitting 0 on the scale again. If it ever goes, there we go. And then we're gonna go in with 80 grams of butter. And again, I don't want to try shoving butter into a measuring cup. I also want to be able to use up any scraps of butter that I might have, so weighing is awesome. Again, so what did I say, 80 grams? And this is actually room temperature butter, which is not what you've probably been told in the past. I learned to make scones and pastry and everything with ice cold butter, but I think because there's not very much butter for the amount of flour there is, it actually works really well with room temperature butter. You can mix it in quicker with your hands, and because it's not so hard, you're not trying to like really break up these big hard chunks. It actually incorporates really nicely, and there's enough flour in there that it quickly coats all the little flakes of butter, and it's just no problem. So I'm just gonna go in with my hands and actually just push the butter into little flakes. Takes a couple minutes. And you can actually even rub it with your two hands together like that. So this is making little layers. I would never do this in a food processor. I mean, pastry, I can understand, especially when it's ice cold butter, you need help breaking it up, but this is a very quick process. So as soon as I start to feel like there's no more big pieces, I'm done. And it just feels really nice, to be honest with you. It's just really soothing. I don't even love eating scones that much, to be honest. Like, I mean, I do, but there's a perfect time and a place for them. But I really love making them. And savory ones just go so well with any kind of chili or soup or stew in the winter. It's so nice. So that didn't take long. That's it. Pretty much done. So next, I'm going to go in with the other stuff. Not quite the wet ingredients yet, but the cheese in this case and the herbs. So back to 0. And I'm going to put 100 grams of cheese in. I think this is pretty close. So I grated a little bit more than I needed. That's because I like to put a bit more cheese on top. Actually, I had my assistant grate it for me. Thanks, assistant. Appreciate that. And then I have some fresh thyme, so I'm just going to throw that in. I'm not going to bother chopping it. You totally could if you were fussy about that stuff. Just going to strip it off of the stems here. And I've got some really nice little salad-y kind of green onions here. So might put a little bit of that in too. There's a lot of big opinions about scones and what the difference between scones and biscuits. To me, a biscuit is just a scone that doesn't have any stuff in it. But I know I've read some articles where people say biscuits are supposed to be less flaky or more flaky, and they're drier, and scones are more cakey. I think that a perfect scone is about the same texture as a perfect biscuit, which is not dry, but also not cakey. I don't want a cakey anything really. I want to have this for breakfast and feel like it's a nice little something. So I've got some fresh thyme in. I think I'm going to skip the onion this time just because I don't feel like chopping it. And then in a measuring jug, we're going to add, oven's ready. We're going to put 1 egg into a measuring jug. And then we're going to fill the measuring jug to up to the 300 ml mark with your milk, cream, or buttermilk. Buttermilk's a great thing. I actually think it would be my #1 choice. But we have, because it's just kind of acidic and gives a really good flavor, and it helps a little bit with the lift as well because of the acid, but we have cream, so I'm using cream. So you just beat that in lightly with a fork. And then I'm going to get the scale out of the way because we're done with it. And then mix the cheese and the herbs in a little bit, and then just dump the wet right in. And then it comes together pretty quickly with a fork here. And this is where you don't want to overwork it. It's all about just bringing it together. Nice big bowl helps with this. See? It's pretty much already mixed in. Just clear the decks here. So I'm going to get a little bit more flour so that we can dust the surface. Do a little side toss on the old flour. This is our brand new table that we built, by the way. It's nice butcher block countertop we got for a pretty good deal. I'm really excited about it. And then we just dump this out. It's okay if it's not all mixed in yet. We're going to mix it a bit more just to bring it together here. And I'm not leaving any of this stuff behind. This is all good. You just kind of rub the side of the bowl, and sometimes it helps to use a bit more flour on your fingers to get the last bits off. You can basically clean the bowl. I don't want any of this to go into the sink. There we go. So now we're just going to bring this together until it's just basically a ball without over mixing it. We definitely don't want to be kneading it like bread dough here. That's how you get bread, which is, you know, the gluten's all developed and it bounces back. You don't want any bouncing back. You want a nice tender scone. So, looks pretty good. So I need something to roll this out with. Actually, you can just pat it out with your hands, but I have a little empty bottle here, so I'm going to use that to help me out. Did I put salt in? I think I did. So just use this bottle to help me roll this. We're going to about 3/4 of an inch thick. So with scones, I am a huge fan of the cut, like using a cutter as opposed to cutting it with a knife. I don't like the triangle thing. It kind of reminds me of bad coffee shops. I just don't do it. I like it when all the sides are cut sides because they lift better. You can see all the layers lifting up. How are we looking? I think that's pretty good. So you can choose what kind of cutter you want, fluted or straight. I think straight is kind of classier, so we'll go with straight. The fluted is a bit more country kitchen, which is totally fine. And in the shop, when we used to mass produce these, we would weigh each one. And we wanted them to be between 95 and 105 grams each. So let's just see. Oh, look at that, 95. Don't zoom in, it was actually 93, close enough. And also, we're just doing these for home. We don't really care if they're exactly right, but. So these are a little bit lighter than 95 grams because I think I rolled them out a tiny bit thinner than usual. No problem. I just cut. We should get 8 or 10, I'd say. A lot of people have problems with scones because they think they're just floury hockey pucks. And there are certainly lots of floury hockey pucks in the world, especially in that coffee shop kind of baked goods cabinet that we are all pretty familiar with. These ones are nice though. Especially with cheese. Cheese melts and gets all nice and gooey, and if you have it warm, it's just the best. So the last two, I'm actually going to shape it into a bit of a weird oblong shape so that I can get a solid 2 more out of this. There we go. I don't want to have to re-roll it too many times. It starts to get tougher the more you work it. So, and you'll see because of this last one that doesn't have any cut sides, it's not going to lift as well. It's just not going to be as good. But I'll eat it anyway, trust me. Okay, so baking sheet. We'll just line them up. How long was that? Maybe, I'm going to say it was 7 to 8 minutes altogether. And then you can actually just use egg wash if you want, but I don't usually bother. I'm just going to dip my fingers into the last of this milky, eggy mixture that we used earlier and just kind of pat the tops just to get something for the cheese to stick to. So some of my favorite combos. My favorite one that I used to sell at a market was applewood smoked cheddar and apple. That was great. I used to put 3 little slices of apple on top. Blueberry and lemon is always a really good combo. You have to be careful with frozen fruit because it gets really unruly as it starts to defrost. So you want to toss it in and quickly, the rest of the process needs to be super quick before the blueberries melt. And then it just turns the scones into like blue, goopy, gooey things. And it's not fun. Here we go, a couple more. Make sure everyone gets a nice amount of cheese. And then they're going in the oven for 405 degrees on this oven for 15 to 18 minutes. And that's it. We're back. The scones are ready. They're nice and brown. I actually rotated them in the oven once so that they all got evenly brown. Pull them out. Look at those. Lovely. Let's check the bottoms. So these are a little bit dark on the bottoms. I found out that this baking sheet is slightly too big for this compact oven, so there's not as much airflow as I would like, but they're pretty good. They're not burnt or anything. And remember I told you how the balled up one was not going to be as nice looking as the cut ones? So this was the balled up one. It's fine. It just, you can't see the layers like you can in, say, this guy or pretty much all the other guys. The last thing I want to talk about before saying goodbye is opening scones. I feel the same way about scones as I do about English muffins, which is cutting them with a knife just seems like the wrong thing to do. I always want to pry them open with a fork. Let me just get a fork here and some butter. So anytime there's layers on a thing like this, I just feel like cutting them with a knife is just, you're slicing through all these great layers that you've worked hard to build. So let's go over here. And I just want to poke a fork in and basically pry it open. And look at the inside. Oh yeah. Scoop a little bit of this butter up with a fork. And if I had a bowl of any kind of soup or chili or chicken stew or even just a nice bowl of lentils or a chickpea something or other, this would just be totally perfect. So that's it. That's scones. They're so good. And that's it for this episode. If you liked it, please subscribe and join me next time. I don't know what we'll be making, but it'll be great, I think. Bye.